All right, now we are recording. Okay, well, click this off real quick. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you for doing. You're my first guest ever here on the Masters Corner.
I'm so glad to be here. I love the idea of it.
This is very exciting for me, especially someone who this is completely outside my wheelhouse. For someone who's been a very quiet person all their life to actually come around speaking, this was my biggest fear at one point. But so let's have you introduce you here. Let people know a little bit who you are, a little bit of your story, and what your passion is for on this planet at the moment.
Great. Okay, so first of all, I got to say, I totally understand coming on and creating something new and having the passion for it, and then going, okay, what am I doing? You sent me a note a while back, and before I tell anything about myself, I got to say, so I get a lot of notes, and when someone is in this vulnerable space that is inhabiting consciousness, you can feel the quality in the note of what they're saying in the note. I feel it in the space between the words. So when I got your email, I was like, wow, there's another person out there like me. It happens a lot. And sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's okay too, because I've done all the roles. So I just want to say thanks for inviting me here. And I love your
My
YouTube
pleasure.
channel and everything that you're doing on it. I've managed to watch a few of the videos, and it's just so real. It's not done up, So I really appreciate that. To me, that's art when things are real. So my given name is Lauren. Sarah is who I experience myself as. And I have been writing about realization and awakening I started New Energy Creator in 2015. So that's 9 years ago. And I started just sharing my story. And it kind of spiraled from that. People bought my book. They started to email me. I started to realize that a lot of people don't read books. So I started doing video, which was totally nerve-wracking. And I was working with an ascended master called El Moria for most of my life. And in 2020, right before the pandemic, he said he needed to go somewhere. That's a long story. And then Katumi showed up, and I started working with Katumi, and he really helped me get organized around what we're doing, what materials we want to put out. It's really about what happens the day after realization. What happens the day after you realize and you choose to namaste, as Katumi says, namaste on earth. And so that's kind of how everything unfolds. And then we've worked with a lot of people who've had the realization, have chosen to namaste on earth. And so a lot of the materials we put out come from our fact-finding mission. What is this like for other people? And I wasn't really getting what I needed from outside sources. So I'd much rather be the reader and the participant and the one watching the videos, but I just wasn't finding it anywhere else. And Katumi said, we can be that, and I hope that this is not the rest of my life. I would like to do other things, but it's just so needed. And I meet more and more people like you every day who are like, hey, this is not the cartoon character version of realization. All these rules we were told about, a master does this or doesn't do this. You know what? A master does whatever the hell the moment calls for. So really, there's a deep program on the other side that is really challenging for myself and for everybody else, where you're like, wait a second, this doesn't look like this cartoon character version, especially in the context of a slow apocalypse and all the changes happening on Earth. And Katumi also has been really working with me on a new Earth called Theos, which is briefly mentioned in the Crimson Circle materials, which is one of the places I studied at. I was there for 2 years in person. I did all of the in-person events for 2 years. And I learned so much, not just from the materials, but watching how everything worked behind the scenes, the stuff you don't see on the internet. The contrast is staggering. So that was really eye-opening to me. And there's no judgment in that. It's just really understanding how it all works. I'm the type of person that wants to take life apart and the biology apart, study all the pieces, and then put it back together. I'm not content with so-and-so said, this is how it will be. I've never been content with someone telling me how it went or how it's going to go. I need to have direct experience. And so a lot of the people we work with are very unique. You know, we work with people who are doctors, dentists, cleaning office buildings, you know, working in food service industry. What a great way to shine your light, being out in the workforce. And they're interacting in life every day. They're not like cocooned somewhere and with all their master rules. So I really learned through creating these programs. I've learned more from the people in the programs they will ever learn from me about what this really looks like, the modern master or the modern magus.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Maybe we should talk a little bit maybe your work with Katumi, because people may not know who that is and how
Okay.
that's helped you a lot. I would believe
Yeah.
that's
So
me interesting energy to play in.
yeah. So Katumi is an ascended master, for lack of a better term. And so that means he had his last lifetime where he experienced God self realization, not soul self, but consciousness, God self realization. And he went on to live on earth for 24 years. A variety of things happened after his realization. He lost his mind and he was in a hospital for 2 years as this clarity that is spirit, not soul, which is something he really distinguishes between, has really taught me the difference between energy of soul and spirit consciousness. So with some of the things we work with. But after he got out of that hospital bed, he began to take a walk and a variety of things occurred. So there was no materials when Katumi and I first started working together in 2020 on what this really looks like from someone who had actually experienced it. Now, Katumi is very digestible for people who come from the Crimson Circle because there's Adamus, Saint Germain there, and there's often Katumi channels. So Moria is not a Crimson Circle master.
Yeah, I don't know much about Moria other than the Theosophist kind of stuff.
Yeah, so he was Katumi's best friend, and they
Yeah.
experienced their realization together, and they got all the way to the end of inhabiting consciousness, new light, fully shining their light, and met up with a group of beings, kind of like the Crimson Council, but different, called the Great White Brotherhood, which is not about being male or white, but something else. And they started to work with them and created the Theosophical Society. And we're able to materialize and dematerialize at will all the things people think they want until they get them and they go, oh man, this is a huge responsibility. So Katumi came in, and the reason he came in is Moria decided to incarnate into a technological metaverse to put the energetic codes for realization in a technology created world, total digital representation. Here's the age of the machines, right? We've heard a lot about the age of the machines if you come from Crimson Circle. So he wanted to create passageways. He has all his light shining into that experience to create those passageways. And he said, you know, he's been with me my whole life since the day I came into this body. I was about 4 years old when I came into this body. And he's been there the whole time. And he said, I can't leave you alone. I'm only trusting my best friend, Katumi, to be with you. So I thought, oh, Katumi will just hang out like Moria did, to make sure I'm not popping out of here. There are days where I could just dematerialize my body and it would be so lovely. But I know that's not what I'm here to do. So I started working with Katumi and he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get organized. I wasn't charging anybody for anything. He's like, we need some money coming in to produce these materials and it's killing you not having an energy exchange. It's such a bizarre thing for me to think that you could make profit and a corporation around spiritual materials, but I realized that the energy exchange does provide a level of support for my body as I'm running everything through it. So Katumi and I started out, I channeled him directly. I'm a very good channeler. I dislike it greatly. I channeled Katumi for the first year. We did the Living in the Garden of New Life series. And then he started showing me how to put the materials out in a more supportive way. So we did the Era of the Magus series. After that, he would do one channel and I would do the next one. So if you get that book or listen to those channels, it's back and forth because he's really been training me on how to do this. The other thing he did was when I met him, I had been in the realized state of being for 3 years. And I didn't realize how much I had grasped onto this idea of realization. Katumi pried it from my gripping hands. He said, he's like, let go of your realization. It was just an experience. Any arrival point is Makyo. You've got to let it go. And I fought him. What was the ego part, because you don't ever get rid of the ego. The realized identity was grabbing onto it so hard. And I did not let go of it that willingly at first. And then finally it was like, you know what? I want to have the next experience. And it's quite disconcerting. Without Katumi, I wouldn't be able to have written and without the people who resonate with our materials, I wouldn't be able to write any of this because at the time, I mean, there was nothing else out there about what comes after realization. I remember, okay, I'm not getting my fix from the Crimson Circle organization, which is fine. It's beautiful space. I have no problems with it. The materials are great for someone who's realization, right? And I realized that, I typed into Google, I said, life after realization. Life after realization. I found one book that really, really helped me, and it was Adyashanti's The End of Your World. He talks about what happens after realization and how things aren't permanent. You don't hold a permanent state, but there's more to explore. And it was really, really helpful. So that was a huge thing. And I thought most people that we work with maybe wouldn't resonate with that background and that language. So we started making our own materials. We actually, on our website, Katumi and I have a new energy glossary. We had to make up a lot of new words to use to describe what was happening. So often I find that people aren't limited in their consciousness. They're limited in their language and their ability to describe what's happening. And the word limitations actually hold them back. Like if you say realization now, it doesn't have much of a meaning. It used to, right? And now it's just like a catch-all for anybody who's decided whatever about themselves.
Oh, I agree. And that is one of the hardest parts I found too, is because you can go out there, you can go beyond the mind, but it is difficult when you bring it back in to put into structure, to put it into words. And we'll talk about this here in a minute about coming back into the mind. There's a resistance to wanting to do that because you're afraid you're going to get trapped. I liked your analogy. I saw your analogy. You talked about the mind being like a open box in Atlantis. Then we closed it off. Everything got trapped in it, and we shakes around. Now that we've opened it back up, we're afraid that it will close back when we come back into
right.
the
And then you'll be a prisoner in the mind once again. Yeah, it's a real big fear. Yeah. And that was another thing Katumi really worked with me on and the people in our programs. He said, you can only go beyond the mind for so long. And then you have to retrain it to be curious. Mm-hmm. And it'll be a mind that can comprehend the infinite. And people love that idea, a mind that could comprehend the infinite. But what you have to go through to put it back together, as you so beautifully said, is not for the faint of heart.
Oh, no. Because, well, I'm going to use my little drawings here as an example.
Okay.
Because this is how I see. I have a little angel and my little devil here for one of my art projects.
How
but
fun.
I see, but really, they're unity. They're neutral. They're together, and when it comes into the mind, it separates out. Then you have the little angel and devil on your shoulder, and that's where we've been stuck for so long in this duality battle. Now that you've gone back out, felt that unity again. You're afraid to go back in the mind and do this, but now as you talk, it comes out in a spiral. Now it doesn't get stuck in, and it kind of goes in. You kind of comes in, spirals around, goes in that you can see it, perceive it, but then it comes back together. It doesn't
Right. You
get
can
stuck
see it in
anymore.
the duality and then it comes back and then and no state
Yeah.
is permanent. So you just really get used to being comfortable in the uncomfortable, or, knowing nothing is permanent. And how
Yeah.
cool that it would be able to separate out so you could see it and come back together. How
Yeah.
cool.
Yes, it is. I agree. It's been a wondrous experience. I, yeah, Enlightenment has been the most amazing. Because you're like, why it's this is the greatest time to be on this planet. It's never been
Mhm.
easier to be a master or to be a magi. It's never been easier to stay on the planet, embody that. We have heavens crossed. We have energy coming together. I'm like, this. Why wouldn't you want to be? We're the luckiest sons of bitches in all of creation.
Amen. Yeah, to complain about
So,
this would be, not seeing the beauty. What a way to be on earth. But I think anybody who complains about it is actually enjoying themselves, you know?
oh yes, because
Yeah,
I've been
they're
doing that myself. Because I've been
they're
realizing
having
where I still play the victim and come back to that gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to worry about being hung on a cross, as a female. I've had many, many lifetimes. This is the first lifetime where I've been able to own property. And this is the first lifetime I've had a car and I use it. I have a old Toyota Tacoma. It has 150,000 miles on it. I have driven all over Northern America, down into Mexico and back 20 something times, all across the United States. And to me, it's like the fact that every time I get in my car and I start it and I come home to my own house that I own without a husband, I'm like, wow, dude. And if I need to get on an airplane, I can, right? Kachumi's like, oh man, it took me like, if I wanted to go somewhere, I was going to be walking. Oh my God. He has these, did I ever, he's like, I had to walk to school 5 miles in the snow, he's like, you can't complain. You want to take a hot bath? You just run the hot water in the bathtub. He's like, I had to take a tea kettle.
Well, we can say, well, Timmy, I've been here a long time. I did the same thing. Not in my alignment though, but getting a little sidetracked. I was because I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about well, I want to talk about going into the new life. What does that mean? What do you mean by going into the new life? Because is it the same as what Thomas would say, the Amio life, or is it different to you?
Well, in Crimson Circle Materials, he called it Nova Vita, right? New life. And new life is something we taught a long time ago. I'm actually in the process of my new life dissolving and something new coming up, but I'll talk about it. So after realization, you have the euphoria pocket. Oh my God, I did it. But it's also really strange. I felt like my body was a stranger's clothing. It's like I woke up after this really intense 3-day experience in which time and space cracked, my identity cracked. Um, and I woke up every day wondering, am I really here? I would tap myself. Am I really here? And I don't really resonate with this body anymore. And I realized to stay on earth, I needed to find something that I loved. I can't define new life, but I can give an example. So I started surfing, and I didn't make it my identity, right? We have a tendency as humans to make our next thing our identity. When I found Crimson Circle, I was like, oh, cool. Now I'm a Shambra. What a relief. I know who I am, and then at the point of realization, that collapses. And so I was like, how am I going to stay here and enjoy life? It was a wobbly experience. Next thing you know, I own a place in Mexico. I'm surfing every day. I have all new friends. I think humans are beautiful and amazing. I have never had a problem with mass consciousness or humans. That makes me a little unique. And so I started living this new life, and I did for about 4 years. And to me, it was just being undefinable, like finding a way to, I guess it is kind of like the Amyo life, where it's like there's a lot of texture. You still integrate things. You're an
Mm-hmm.
infinite being, but it's like something will come up And you don't think, oh, it's another thing to integrate. You go, oh, wow, cool. I'm learning more about myself. And a lot of stuff happens in the biology too. It's like, oh, we can talk about that in another section.
Because I like the idea of coming up with the idea, because that's something that I realized. It took me a while to realize it, but not getting caught into the identity of the human, or even as a master, or as being the soul or higher self, or any of these things. They're all illusions. At some point, it's just energy.
Right.
Because the truth is, I am consciousness imagining this, but all the imagination I'm having isn't real, isn't who I am. So that's kind of a process you have to go through, like letting go of all the identities. But then at the same time, I still go to work. I still say, hello, my name is James, or I say I'm a master. And I know you prefer the word magi or magus.
Yeah, I actually prefer no title because
Yeah, I know. I think
it's
that's more
very,
correct too.
yeah. But we need to have a language to talk about it. But yes, that's exactly what, thank you for helping me here. That's exactly what new life is. It's like, I know I'm not any of these things. However, I will continue to play knowing it's like you wake up from the dream and you don't go back to sleep, but you still play, you're in a dreamscape, and it's actually a pretty cool one. Earth has a lot of cool things. And so you don't, you learn how to be on Earth without getting stuck in things. So to me, that was living in Mexico and surfing and hosting surf retreats and putting our books out without it being my identity. It's like, a lot of channelers are channelers and they're channeling somebody really important. Dude, there is not a day I don't wake up and have a good chuckle at the fact that I have a YouTube page. I mean, it is absurd. It's absurd. I have a YouTube page. Oh my God. Funniest joke on earth. It's like this is a new life story, right? I went along before realization thinking I was doing the most important thing in the world. And then I realized it didn't really matter. It wasn't that important. But I woke up one day and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Even though I know it's not the most important thing, I'm still going to treat it like it's the most important thing. Otherwise, my materials wouldn't be as engaging, and the books wouldn't be as good. It's like, if I'm going to be here, I'll make the best of it without getting stuck anywhere. So to me, that's new life. But I also want to point out that at some point that even dissolves. And then there's this new energy experience, which I'm just now baby stepping into. Like, I don't have a definitive thing to tell someone, like, I've arrived and I've made it. It's like, you can only get in the humility. But all of a sudden, my whole life in Mexico dissolved. It didn't crumble or fall apart. It's like it never happened. And it's like the woman who lived there after realization never actually happened. It was just a dream that I woke up from. And now, so this personality constantly sloughing off. And you wake up every day, you go, who am I going to be today? Right? A lot of the people that have suffered from our programs and told me to F off, right? They're like, I know who I am. And they're grabbing onto the realized identity like this. I know who I am. And I wake up every day going, I don't know who I'm going to be today. That's all right. The only thing that stays steady is I exist. I am that I am. But my personality will change based on the most appropriate for the maximum joy experience. That's something Moria taught me. He said you get slippery. He called it getting slippery, where it's like who shows up is going to be to create the maximum joy experience in this active consciousness, in this play, And you can do all this and live to me, the most stunning facet of new life is that you can act and observe from the same place, and you can create experiences that you don't have to wisdomize later. So in other words, which just means you're not creating karma. You live without creating karma, which will create another lifetime, right? So now you can go out and be in the world, but you aren't creating karma. You're not creating experiences to wisdomize, which is that when Adamus talked so much about experiences to wisdomize, he's talking about the dynamics of cause and effect called karma.
Oh,
So being
I would
able
say
to
the
go
best
out and
advice.
play is so nice. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no! I love you. Always remind everybody to play. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment. But one of the best advice I got for myself, it was when I first originally started, and I was channeling, and I was channeling. I didn't know what it was. It just said it was me, and I didn't understand it at the time. But I realized now it was the master self, and it told me that then Do not get caught in your beliefs. What's true today will not be true tomorrow. Just go with it. Allow yourself to evolve and change in every moment. And that's just been like, don't get caught in anything. Don't get caught into Chrism Circle. Because I was watching Chrism Circle for like 2.5 years before I would even call myself a Shambra. And still that, it's loosely. I'm like, I don't like joining groups. So I understand it's like, it gets sticky. You can feel the stickiness of it when you've been in that place where you don't want to. If I say I'm this, then that's what. If I say, oh, I'm a YouTuber content creator, oh, that sounds icky. It just sounds sticky as hell. Who
Yeah,
want to be a
but I
content
mean, for
creator? That
some,
sounds horrible.
I mean, it takes an individual to be like that for, and I can see the other side of it. For a lot of people, having that I am Shambra identity, the red scarf, the, repost the Adamus quotes and everything, for them, it's a security blanket that they need. Right.
Oh
But there
yes,
comes a right. And that's like a beautiful thing because it's keeping them on earth. It's keeping them from going totally insane, making them not feel so alone. So it provides a really good service, but at some point you have to hand it back over, and those of
yes.
us who've been caught up in other groups and other lifetimes, I have, it's like, okay, okay. I mean, I went to a shout once and they were selling red scarves, crimson scarves, and it was voluntary to buy one and wear it, but not so much. And I couldn't do it. It's like I can't do that. I'm gonna turn around and go home. And I did with love and honor. Hey, if that really worked for you and that's keeping you here and it's keeping you doing your aspect
Well,
integration, your SESs and all that, then more power to you. However, I will not put that noose around my neck, you know? And it's really hard because if you say anything to a fundamentalist, they get defensive and they want to hurt you. And it's stopped. But when I first started sharing and doing these things from a place of what I thought was great respect, I upset a lot of people. It's like by just saying, hey, that doesn't work for me, you're insulting their entire religion, and the swords come out to the point where I needed to move because I thought they were going to light me on fire. And I'm not kidding. It became violent, aggressive, and whatever. But I also never stopped loving what it does for people on the other side of that. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's been a real hurdle for me to get over, is being like, hey, I honor you guys, even though you've tried to, you know, you know, hurt me.
yeah,
No.
yeah. That's a hard part because like you're giving compassion, but none is getting back to you. It's a
Right.
hard, it's a harsh thing to at first to do. That's when you just gotta. That's when you walk away and you just, trust me. I had my brother who is a full narcissist. Give him compassion. Give him, but I can't do anything. I know he will never say a nice word to me
Right.
unless
And
he
that's
wants
the
money.
thing is, in my learning curve from it was I realized my heart was only half open. And if you have a half open heart, then things get stuck and it hurts, right? You're
Yes.
loving and then you reap the negative effects of being so open. But if you open it all the way, right? You open it all the way, everything just
That's
blows
scary.
through. And you're in a state of vulnerability. And it's quite crazy because after a while, you can't defend yourself. So someone wants to hurt you or is making fun of you online or whatever, you just let it hurt. And if you let it all hurt, then it dissipates, right? But as soon as you can't, it's the same thing. Like I can't put on that scarf. And I also can't form an identity to defend myself. It's quite a thing. Katumi calls it vulnerability. To be creative, you have to have vulnerability. The ability to create comes from this vulnerability. And if you don't like being vulnerable, it's scary. It's horrendously scary. Then having a fundamentalist identity, it's not just Schomburg. It's if you go in the non-dual groups, there's fundamentalist, non-dualist. There's fundamentalist Buddhist. If I went to the self-realization fellowship in California, there's fundamentalist yogis, and it's like,
after my realization, like you, I was seeking something more. So I decided, I checked out spiritual forms for the first time. And they're
Okay.
just, that was the shit show of a lifetime. I realized, oh my God, these people are so filled with it.
Right.
Everybody, it's just
And
everybody
it's
attacking
not
everybody. Yeah, I'm like, these are the spiritual people.
right. It's not just CC. I mean, almost everybody we work with
Well,
comes
it wasn't in the circle. It was
every,
just a spiritual form.
yeah, anything. Well, the internet is such an interesting thing because I live in a small town. And we're not mean to each other because we have to see each other every day. There's accountability. I know the person at the checkout line in the grocery store. She knows about what's going on in my life. She's asking if my mom's okay. Like I live in a really small town. I know everybody and everybody knows me because it's a small town. And there's no way to be an asshole. And if you are, you eventually have to apologize, right? But online, and oftentimes the people writing the Enlightened Post and the whatever, they're living in their parents' basement. It's like they're miserable, right? So you can
Oh
create
yeah.
these online personas, and you know, Moria cautioned me. I was off Facebook for 4 years until Katumi pushed me back on there. It's actually going okay. Um, but Moria said you will create aspects to integrate if you have a strong online personality, unless you are really careful in your use of it, right? So you end up creating more aspects to integrate if you're a big to-do online.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Uh,
What I'm saying is it's a new thing with this increasing technology. It's changing the dynamics of what it really is to be an integrated being on Earth.
well, you can say anybody who does like the Instagram thing, it's all a persona. It's all a aspect they're creating to show the world, and it's not really who they are, but it's all just a creation. But now they got that floating around in the ether, coming back around. They're gonna have to deal with it at some point.
Right. It's just like all of our other stuff. It's like the timelines continue. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
married. I'm divorced now, have been for 12 years. There's still that timeline still continues, right? And it becomes a facet, in CC language. It's no longer dragging me around, but it still exists. So you have to be really conscious in what kind of personas you're creating out there. You could do
I,
it fun and clean too, which is
mm,
why I have a good sense of humor about me having a YouTube page, because it's so absurd. And if I woke up tomorrow and it disappeared, I would have a good chuckle and go do something else. You know?
well, I guess, yeah. The way I see it is, as long as you're just open, honest in the moment, and it's not really creating a persona, just being that moment, then there's nothing you're just creating that moment. You're not really creating the aspect of like, I'm James, I'm a great podcaster, or whatever it would be.
Right.
That
Any
would just be silly to
identity.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, but yes, it's something to watch for, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something for me to feel into as I go ahead and do this.
I think there can never be enough people sharing their stories. There can never be enough voices, a diversity of experience. It's not going to be one size fits all. It's not going to look like it did for someone wearing tights in the 1700s. I love St. Jude, but I make fun of him a lot because he's a good sport. He has a good laugh. Yes, I was wearing tights, and lace up shoes in the 1700s. And we'll have a good laugh. I was running around in my bathing suit on a surfboard in 2020. It's like, it's funny.
Because that's where I see I'm going. What I feel is the knowing is just to have a safe space here for anybody who wants to come in. I think right now I would say you need to be realized. That's going to be my only criteria. Whatever you want to talk about, I don't care. If you just want to have a safe place to come and express yourself, contact me. That's all I can say. And that to me, it's kind of sounds, it's fun. Just give somebody a safe space that I've been experiencing for the last year and a half.
Yeah, and that's what Katumi and I created. We have about 40 people, and I think that other people should create it too. I don't feel like I
Yes.
have a monopoly or a copyright on anything. I'm the only one who can do it. Oh my God. That
Oh
was a
no.
real big turn off from CC for me. So I'm always promoting other people's stuff that I think would be helpful, you know? So we have
Yeah, I don't own Enlightenment. You don't own it. It's a free grab for everybody.
yeah, we have a term in some of our calls. We call it laugh cry. The laugh cry where you're laughing and crying at the same time. And our joke is
Yes.
we're gonna trademark laugh cry and sue anybody who uses it. You cannot use laugh cry. And we'll spell it really funny, so and trademark it. Anyhow, but that's what Toomey and I have been doing. It's what I've been doing. I created my first online forum in 2018, and it was for people who had experienced their realization, wanted to talk about it, didn't want to beat their chest. It was forbidden in any Crimson Circle, anything to talk about realization. Forbidden. You weren't allowed to talk about it. If you did, you were a chest beater. That's what that you were called. So I created a, because everything falls apart after realization. Everything. And you're going through physical stuff that is just
Oh, yeah.
bizarre. So I was like, there needs to be a forum where there's no hierarchy and you're allowed to say whatever's going on. So in 2018, I created an online forum just as a hobby, kind of like what you were talking about. And we had about 50 people came, and we did that for a while. Then I shut it down. I took a break, and then Katumi and I started it again. We're in year 4 of that, and our programs, like we have 40 people in our new energy human database program, and everybody comes on a call once a month, and we've gotten to know each other. So it's like, hey, Bob, what do you have going on? What's your big aha moment, of this month? And Bob, that's a made up name, we'll share, and we'll all go, oh, wow, and and everyone just kind of, it normalizes all this stuff. And there's a lot of the deprogram of, oh, I thought a bag of money was going to drop out of the sky after my realization. Masters don't
I'm
work.
still waiting for that.
Master don't work, all that stuff. And everybody's realizing, that do work, like, wow, what a cool way to interact with the world, to get out of the house, to shine my light. I actually like going to work. What else would I do? Just sit around, And so there's a lot of like the unprogramming and it can be really hard on the nervous system, the deprogramming of things we made concrete from the materials we came from, like CC or self-realization fellowship or non-dual, whatever, or so-and-so, right? So you make them firm, and then they all come unraveling. Sosi Hoon comes back around after realization as many times as it feels like it, right? Understanding the difference between soul, energy, and spirit consciousness. Energy and consciousness can't come together because you're a Shambhala master, you had your realization. That does not, I've just been barely touching the Christ consciousness. And every time I do, I touch it and I go, okay, I'm going to adjust to the light. And then, I started with the toe in. I think I probably have 1 foot ankle deep in there, because it's like, and you stop being in a hurry. Everything slows way down. You go, okay, I need to savor this. I need to not go too fast. My nervous system is completely rewiring itself. We call it the third nervous system, a nervous system that doesn't operate on duality. It's either or, so your body comes in, it's in an active state of rest all the time. That has taken me 4 years with direct work with Katumi to get it there. And now I'm fine tuning it, this new nervous system, right? And you go through periods of 10 days where you feel like you stuck your finger in a light socket. And then you'll go through 20 days where you can't get out of bed. And people who are shining their, or waving their crimson flag of realization haven't gone through all that yet. So it's not a big deal, except that I want people to know there's nothing wrong with them. And they did not lose their realization. When that euphoria wears off and Sosi Hoon comes back around, and you're learning to walk as a baby, you have to relearn how to be in the world. And I just think that it's really dangerous sometimes to put out the, I'm a master and everything's perfect, because it won't last, because nothing lasts. And you didn't
Yeah.
do anything wrong. Realization establishes a baseline for all the stuff that you bring in next. And that's what we started in the Era of the Magus series book. It says it's the first chapter is I have realization in my back pocket. It's like it's in my back pocket. So now I can handle all the stuff that's coming to me. Lifetimes from Atlantis have come to me since my realization showed me what really happened there. Didn't show me before realization because there is no way in hell I could have handled it.
Yeah,
You know,
I still remember stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to someday. So I'll
yeah,
let
you
it come
don't really
natural.
have
I'm not going to force
to.
it.
Yeah, you don't have to. But to me, I really want, I want to understand everything. Like, as I told you, I want to
Mhm.
take it apart and put it back together. You know, as more and more people like you and I and others who are in the real reality of absolute reality, as we shine light inside different parts and pieces of ourselves. We're not shining our light externally, but within. As we do that, we are rewriting the history of Atlantis, and it has a because we're rewriting the history of Atlantis. It never flooded. It never was this horrible, catastrophic event where millions and millions of people died. That will change, and that will have huge impacts on the time of the machines happening
Oh,
now.
yeah. Yeah, we could talk probably all day about how time is an illusion and how it's so malleable creation is and how it's nothing is what we thought it was. And
No,
it's
every
just,
day is new for me. Whatever I
I
thought yesterday, and I mean yesterday, is not what I know today. And tomorrow will be totally different from what I think I know today. And that takes some speaking of malleability, it takes some neuroplasticity in the mind
mm,
to be able to understand that whatever is happening right now will not be what's happening in 2 minutes. And the
mm,
human mind that's not retrained into the open box will be trying to grab to anything, a spiritual identity, a arrival point, a whatever, you know, because it's too scary to be in that malleable state. Like not knowing who you are from moment to moment beyond the fact that it's the blanket of I exist beneath your feet, the
when
divine
you
ground.
say that, not knowing who you are moment to moment, to me, when I hear you say that, I feel a passion and an excitement for that. That to me sounds like fun.
Yeah, because I mean, come on. I was so sick of Lauren, the fixed identity, the Chambra Lauren. I was a Chambra superstar. I was a Chambra superstar. I mean, I went to every event. I had my picture on everything. I was like the forum queen online. She died a slow, painful death. I'm so sick of her. And when she was dying, I was like, good riddance, Super Chambra Lauren. You know, I can't look at you anymore. So to me, it was like, what a relief. I don't have to be Super Chambra anything. Um, it
I
was.
think that's the best. I don't
Easy.
have to be in, I can just be whatever I want to be in the moment. I can just be whatever I feel passionate about right now. Just go be
Yeah.
that.
And I love being a student. I say, Katumi, come
Oh,
teach me something new. And I sit down in Indian style, like I would in kindergarten. I said, come teach me something new. I love being a student. A lot
oh,
of
trust me,
people,
that's why I love sitting outside, just sitting in there and just feeling, oh, wow, I hadn't realized that before. Usually it was like, I love how you say, yeah, it's what it feels like, dough. I'm like, oh, how did I not see that? See that
right?
overhead consciousness.
Right. And I love being
That
wrong.
happens every day. I'm like, it's always evolving.
No, I love that what you just shared because it reminds me to say this. It's like what you're describing. You're like, oh, why didn't I see that before? I also love when I'm wrong about something. It's such a sensational feeling. I go, oh, I was wrong about that. And now I can open to a new truth. It's like a flower blooming inside of my body. I got it wrong. Oh my God. Right. And that fixed identity can't stand getting anything wrong, has to know exactly who it is. And, you know, that's where the violence comes from. To me, it's so, any firm identity is violent. And that's the other side of this. You become so sensitive, you know, and not in a poor me or empath way. I'm talking like, wow, but nothing sticks around too long. When my dog died, I'm a dog person. when my dog died 2 years ago, who went through this whole journey with me, I sat down on my floor, I cried for an hour, and then I got up off the floor and I was done because I had no resistance to the grief. It moved so deeply through me, visceral grief, cries, yells, oh, the whole thing. And then an hour later, I got up off the floor and I said, okay, I'm going to go walk my puppy. And that may sound like being a sociopath, but if you have no resistance to anything, the things that roll through don't get stuck.
I understand because it feels uncomfortable for us, that neutrality, because I've been feeling that neutrality, and it's just so different. And also, if you just, it has no push, good or bad or anything to it. It feels uncomfortable at first. It feels like almost like you're a little, well, am I just not caring? Am I not?
Oh yeah.
Will I be able to relate to people?
Yeah.
Oh, like,
and then you realize that all of that was like tending to other people's egos, emotional needs, and your own, and so, but you do, like, some people will think, I've had people tell me this, like, you don't feel anything. And I'm like, I feel everything. But when their ego's upset about something, you looked at me wrong, It's like, how can I have,
because in the neutrality, it's all still there, but it's just not taken aside.
yeah. And if you do get worked up about something, you realize you're acting
Mm-hmm.
real instantly. It's like, oh, I'm going to get indignant about something, and it's like, hey, it's kind of fun to act out that every now and then, but you don't forget that you're acting. Like, you don't forget it's just a story. To me, that's what it is. So if you want to, like, there's always a moment where I'm like, am I going to get upset about that person taking my parking space? For example, and I'm like, you know what? Today I am, because why not? But there's a little moment where you go, okay, what am I going to choose here? Or, yeah, I have other stuff to do today. I'm not that bored.
Well, we're coming up to an hour here, so I don't want to
Oh,
keep you
really? God,
forever.
that went by so
Yeah,
fast.
I know it's so. Yeah, it does when you're just in the flow of it. Trust me, I've made long videos. I'm like, oh, it's an hour and a half. I need to stop at some
Right?
point. But oh yeah, when you're in that passion, you're just in it. So it takes you for the ride. But I do want to, before we go and stuff, get your YouTube channel, your website, and if you want to direct anybody to any books and stuff you have. I know you have
Okay,
quite a few on
cool.
Amazon. I did read a few of yours, especially oh, the New Garden with, yeah, what was that?
The Garden of
I
New
should have wrote
Life.
down the titles.
The Garden of New
Thank
Life.
you. Yes.
Yeah. That one was
I
really
really enjoyed that one.
wild.
It's a nice, easy read with Katumi, light.
Yeah, it's real light. It's real light, but it's not lacking depth. And every day, every
Yeah,
time I open that book back up, I realize how unsimple it is.
it
Like, he
grows.
finds
And
he goes to the pagoda house in Tibet in that book, and it's actually a metaphor for his light body. It's not really about the pagoda house. It's about his light body. So, my name is Sarah. Our YouTube channel is at New Energy Creator. We have a ton of books. And our website is, we just put out our first audiobook. And unlike other places where you have to pay thousands of dollars for materials, we put all of our light body sessions into an audiobook called The Magi's Definitive Guide to the New Human Species. It was all the courses we taught on that. So, and my website is www.becomingsarh.com. The easiest thing to find is the YouTube channel at New Energy Creator. Hey, James, I just got to
yeah.
stop and say it's really refreshing to meet someone like you and to see what you're doing on YouTube, and the feeling depth from someone sharing, because a lot of the people who are in this experience, they don't have the desire to be out there. So what you end up with is a lot of people who are putting themselves out there, and it's a persona, it's a character, it's whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying I'm not a character. I'm totally a character. But
I don't
I'm
think
just,
I could do that. I came from as a punk rocker as when I was younger. I had to have the authenticity. If it's not there, I never liked it.
James Authentic James is still a character, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
that
name
is
of
true.
it, right? So I just really want to say thank you for your time. It's really nice meeting you. I love getting notes from people like you. And I think it'd be great if you created your own space and interviewed other people. I have lists of people I would send to you. I'm
Oh,
sure you'll
yes, please
find
do. I will take the. I
because
am,
there can
as the
never
dog
be
says, allow
enough.
yourself to receive.
Yeah, there can never be enough people sharing the reality of this
No, but
experience.
as I look at, I had my realization a few years before some other people did. So I know they're going to be in this about the same place I am now, coming up here soon, and
Yeah,
they're going to want a place to come out and be safe, to be honest, because at first when you start laying that master or that wisdom out or that whatever you want to call it, that it's yeah, you don't even want to give it a word. This essence of yourself out. You want a kind of it's scary. It's like jumping off a cliff in a way. You kind of want a safe space for that.
yeah, and you know there's other people out there like you. You know you're not special, unique, or the
Oh
only one.
yeah,
And for me, that's what it was. That's what was my deepest passion. It's like, I got to find other people like me, and they're not on these forums. I've got to find other people like me. And none of them have social media, just like you. So I had to do some real deep digging to find the people in our program.
that yeah. I
90%
could
of the,
probably ask you just the whole show. The
I'm
whole
sorry,
show. I could probably do a whole show just about how you built this up because that had to be difficult. Because yeah, everybody is
what?
still inter, kind of internal at the moment.
Yeah, and these people aren't on social media. They will never be on social media, just like you. You're not on Facebook or anything. So it's like, how do we find each other? Consciousness finds each other. I came to people in dreams to get them there, and they said, I knew how to Google your website from a dream. That's
Like
how
you just came to me when I watched your video. I didn't tell you this before, but I had such a deja vu feeling when I watched your videos for the first time. And I was like, I've had to seen this somewhere before, but I knew I hadn't. It was just such a deja vu. I was like, then it just said, contact her, asked her to do an interview. And I'm like, okay. So I just did it.
Well, James, a lot of people have asked me to do this, and I've said no to to all of them. So you're the first one I said yes to because it came from
Oh,
that space. But it's a testament to if you have a passion for something, there's no forum administrator or grumpy organizational whatever who can stop you and the passion. I was silenced, I was shut down, I was shoved off a bar stool. I mean, I was physically assaulted because I shouldn't be doing this. It's the landscape has changed, but passion can't be stopped. It cannot, will not, won't be stopped. And that is how the new energy works.
oh, that is true. I think we ended it there with passion because that is why we're here. I thank you once again. This has been a true joy for me, and thank you for helping me start on this new journey. I'm glad you were the first guest, and I will always
I
remember you
can't
for
wait
that.
to watch what comes next. I'm all in. I'm a subscriber of your page. What is your page called again?
I believe it's the Master's Corner.
Masters
I
Corner.
actually,
Masters
I
Corner.
actually, it's after Winnie the Pooh's Corner,
Oh,
because I felt it's a
I love
safe
Winnie.
space.
I love Winnie. He's a good friend. Winnie the Pooh is a very good
I
friend.
yeah, as a child, that's to me that was that childhood memory just popped. It's like, call it Master's Corner, like Pooh's Corner. And I'm like, yep, okay.
I love it.
So it's just a safe place on the internet for us.
I'm all in. Sign me up. I can't wait to see what comes next. And I love your personal videos too. I think they're like musical notes. I really,
Oh,
really
thank
like
you.
that. So thank you, James.
Thank you, and I can't wait. I'm actually wanting to read some more of your books. The one you were talking about, that one actually really interests me. I'm probably getting that one next.
All
Oh,
right.
so I'm all in too for you. I love what you're doing. So thank you again, and namaste here on Earth.
Namaste on Earth. Woo.